Have you ever heard of a people who were born, lived, and died on horseback? I'm not exaggerating. For the ancient Scythians, horses weren't just a tool for travel or war. They were their entire world. Picture this: a vast, wind-swept grassland, stretching as far as the eye can see. The Eurasian Steppe. Across this endless sea of grass, nomadic tribes roamed, and among the most fearsome and fascinating were the Scythians. They didn't just ride horses, they lived on them. From the moment a Scythian child could walk, they were learning to ride. They ate, drank, and even slept in the saddle. Their bond with their horses was so deep it was almost spiritual. This wasn't just mastery, it was a complete fusion of human and animal, creating a new kind of being. The centaur of the steppes. This incredible connection is what allowed them to build not an empire of stone and walls, but an empire of movement, an empire on horseback that dominated the ancient world for centuries. Imagine a society with no kings, no palaces, and no fixed borders. A world where freedom wasn't a concept debated by philosophers, but a reality lived every single day. This was the Scythian way of life on the Great Steppe. They were organized into clans and tribes, led by chieftains, who earned their authority not through birthright, but through courage and wisdom. Their homes were not houses, but felt-covered wagons, called yurts, which could be packed up and moved at a moment's notice. They followed the seasons and the vast herds of animals that sustained them, living in a constant, flowing migration. This nomadic existence created a people who were incredibly resilient, self-sufficient, and fiercely independent. They answered to no distant emperor. Their law was the law of the clan, and their loyalty was to their kin and their chieftain. It was a life of harsh, challenged, brutal winters, scorching summers, and the constant threat of rival tribes, but it was also a life of unparalleled liberty. They were truly masters of their own destiny, roaming the wild, open lands under a vast, endless sky. Too many settled civilizations. They were barbarians, but in many ways, their society was more egalitarian and free than any kingdom in history. So, how did these horse-riding nomads become one of the most feared military forces of antiquity? Their battle tactics were as fluid and unpredictable as their lifestyle. The Scythians were the original masters of mobile warfare. Their armies were composed almost entirely of cavalry, a thundering storm of horsemen that could appear out of nowhere and vanish just as quickly. Their primary weapon was the composite bow, a marvel of engineering for its time. It was small enough to be used from horseback, but powerful enough to pierce armor from a distance. And the Scythians were virtuosos with it. They could fire arrows with deadly accuracy while galloping at full speed. But the most legendary and terrifying skill was the Parthian shot. At a full gallop, while seemingly retreating, a Scythian warrior could twist his body around in the saddle and fire a volley of arrows backward at his pursuers. Imagine the shock and chaos this caused. An enemy army, thinking they were winning and chasing a fleeing foe, would suddenly be riddled with arrows from the very people they were pursuing. This tactic required an insane level of horsemanship and archery skill, something only a people who lived their entire lives in the saddle could perfect. It was like watching ancient special forces in action, a deadly dance of speed, precision, and surprise that left their enemies bewildered and broken. But their arsenal wasn't limited to but for close-quarters combat. Scythian warriors carried a short sword called an achenex. They were also known for their distinctive armor, often made from overlapping scales of iron or bronze sewn onto a leather jacket, providing excellent protection without sacrificing mobility. Even their horses were sometimes armored. But what truly set them apart was their psychological warfare. Their appearance alone was intimidating. They were often described with long hair, beards, and intricate tattoos covering their bodies depicting fierce animals and mythical creatures. They would charge into battle with terrifying war cries, a whirlwind of motion and noise designed to break the enemy's spirit before the first arrow was even fired. They didn't fight in rigid formations like the Greeks or Romans. Instead, they used swarm tactics, surrounding their enemies, peppering them with arrows from all directions, feigning retreats to lure them into traps, and then turning to annihilate them. They avoided pitched battles against heavy infantry whenever possible, preferring to use their superior mobility to harass, exhaust, and demoralize their opponents. This hit-and-run style of warfare was incredibly effective against the slow-moving, conventional armies of the time. They were a nightmare to fight, a ghost army that struck hard and then melted back into the vastness of the steppe. The influence of the Scythians stretched far beyond the battlefield. Their unique culture and artistry have left an indelible mark on history. The treasures they buried with their chieftains in large burial mounds, or kurgans, are simply breathtaking. Archaeologists have unearthed spectacular objects made of solid gold, crafted with a skill that rivals any of the great ancient civilizations. This Scythian gold isn't just valuable. It tells a story. The art is filled with dynamic scenes of animals in combat, stags, panthers, griffins, and eagles locked in a perpetual, swirling struggle. This animal-style art reflects their deep connection to the natural world and the brutal, beautiful reality of life on the steppe. It's an art of movement, energy, and power. These golden artifacts, intricate jewelry, ornate weapons, and detailed plaques that decorated their clothing and horse harness. A people with a highly developed sense of beauty and a sophisticated mythology. They traded extensively with the Greeks, the Persians, and even the Chinese, acting as a crucial link on the early Silk Road. They weren't just isolated nomads. They were a vital part of the ancient world's interconnected web of trade and culture, spreading ideas and goods across continents. So what happened to this powerful horse empire? The decline of the Scythians is as mysterious as their origins. No single event led to their downfall. Instead, it seems to have been a gradual process over several centuries. Climate change may have played a role, altering the grasslands they depended on for their herds. Increased pressure from other rising nomadic groups, like the Sarmatians, who were culturally similar but militarily formidable, began to push the Scythians from their traditional lands. Over time, some Scythian groups began to settle down, adopting agriculture and building fortified towns. This shift from a nomadic to a settled lifestyle changed their society fundamentally. They lost the mobility that had been their greatest strength. They became easier targets for their enemies and more susceptible to the political intrigues of settled kingdoms. By around the 2nd century BC, their dominance over the steppes had faded, and they were gradually absorbed by other cultures and peoples who swept across the plains. They left no written histories of their own. So much of what we know comes from their enemies, like the Greek historian Herodotus, and from the silent testimony of their tombs. They rode out of the mists of prehistory, ruled the steppes for half a millennium, and then, like the wind, they vanished back into legend. But their legacy endures in the art they left behind, in the military tactics that would be copied for centuries to come, and in the enduring, romantic image of the free-spirited warrior, forever one with their horse, under the endless sky of the steppe. They appeared like ghosts from the horizon, a storm of hooves and arrows, and vanished just as fast. For centuries, they were the masters of the endless Eurasian steppe, a civilization with no cities, yet controlling an empire that, at its peak, was larger than Rome's. These were the people who wrote their history not in stone, but on the wind and across the vast grasslands. Imagine trying to control a sprawling empire without a single permanent wall or fixed border. It sounds unreal, but the Scythians did it, and they did it with a level of sophistication that still baffles historians today. How did this nation of nomads become one of the most feared and respected powers of the ancient world? While great civilizations were building pyramids and grand temples in settled lands, a different kind of power was rising on the vast plains stretching from the Black Sea to the borders of China. These were the Scythians, a collection of fierce, horse-riding tribes, united by a common language and a unique way of life. The Greek historian Herodotus, our main source for much of what we know, was both fascinated and terrified by them. He described them as unconquerable, a people who had no cities or forts to defend, but instead carried their homes with them on wagons. Their strategy was simple yet brilliant. When a great army invaded, they didn't stand and fight. They would retreat, drawing the enemy deeper and deeper into the barren steppe, harassing them with hit-and-run attacks, cutting off their supplies, and letting the harsh environment do the rest. The secret to their military dominance was the horse. The Scythians were arguably the world's first true masters of cavalry. They practically lived in the saddle from a young age, perfecting the art of archery on horseback. They could turn and fire a volley of arrows with deadly accuracy while in full gallop, a move later known as the Parthian shot, but perfected by the Scythians centuries earlier. Their bows were revolutionary, a composite design of wood, horn, and sinew, making them incredibly powerful and compact, ideal for use on horseback. An army of Scythian horse archers was a terrifying sight. They could shower an enemy with arrows from a distance, then melt away before any infantry could even get close. This wasn't just warfare, it was an art form, a deadly dance of speed and precision. But the Scythians were far more than just barbarian warriors. Their society was complex, and their art is absolutely breathtaking. Archaeologists have uncovered their burial mounds, called kurgans, which are like frozen time capsules. These tombs, preserved for millennia in the Siberian permafrost, have revealed a culture of incredible wealth and artistic skill. They weren't just burying their kings and queens. They were sending them to the afterlife with everything they'd need. Horses, weapons, servants, and heaps of gold. The level of craftsmanship is astounding. They were masters of a unique art style, often called animal style, featuring intricate designs of stags, griffins, panthers, and other real and mythical beasts, all crafted in shimmering gold. These weren't just decorations. They were symbols of power, status, and their spiritual connection to the natural world. One of the most stunning discoveries was the Siberian Ice Maiden, a Scythian noblewoman found perfectly preserved, her skin covered in elaborate tattoos of mythical creatures. These tattoos weren't crude markings, they were sophisticated works of art, telling a story on her skin. This find, along with others, completely changed our perception of these so-called nomads. They had a rich spiritual life, a complex social hierarchy, and an artistic sensibility that rivaled any of the civilized empires to their south. They even developed an early form of trousers, a practical invention for a life on horseback that would eventually be adopted across the world. And believe it or not, Herodotus also tells us they used cannabis in purification rituals, inhaling the vapor in small tents, which might just be the earliest written account of its ceremonial use. Scythian society also had a fascinating take on gender roles. While it was a patriarchal society, evidence suggests that women held significant power and could even be warriors. The discovery of female graves containing weapons and battle scars has led many historians to believe that the ancient Greek myths of the Amazons, the legendary female warriors, were actually based on Scythian women. These weren't just myths, they were Greek interpretations of a reality they witnessed on the fringes of their world. Imagine a society where women fought and hunted alongside men, their prowess on horseback just as feared. It's a powerful image that challenges our conventional view of ancient societies. So what happened to this formidable empire of the steppes? Like all great powers, their time eventually came to an end. Starting around the 3rd century BC, they faced pressure from new waves of nomadic groups moving in from the east, like the Sarmatians, who were relatives of the Scythians, but also their rivals. At the same time, their settled neighbors were becoming stronger and better at countering their tactics. The Scythians were gradually pushed out of the central steppes, their empire shrinking. Some groups settled down and assimilated into other cultures, while others were simply absorbed by the new arrivals. By the early centuries AD, the name Scythian had largely faded from history, becoming a general term for any nomadic people from the region. They vanished almost as mysteriously as they appeared, leaving behind no grand cities or written chronicles. Their legacy, however, is woven into the fabric of history. They were a crucial link in the Silk Road, acting as middlemen who connected the East and the West. Their military tactics influenced armies for centuries to come, from the Parthians to the Mongols. Their incredible gold work continues to inspire awe in museums around the world. And their very existence proves that civilization isn't just about stone buildings and written laws. It can be a vibrant, dynamic culture that thrives in motion, a testament to human adaptability and ingenuity. The Scythians show us that an empire can be built on horseback, its borders defined not by walls, but by the reach of its riders. They were the true, original warriors of the endless steppe. Ever wondered what the deadliest weapon of the ancient world was? Hint: it wasn't a giant sword or a massive spear. It was small, elegant, and so powerful it could punch straight through armor from a distance. I'm talking about the Scythian bow. This thing was a game changer, and the people who wielded it were some of the most feared and fascinating warriors in history. So, who were the Scythians? Imagine a vast, nomadic empire stretching across the Eurasian steppe, from the Black Sea all the way to the borders of China, around 2,500 years ago. They were masters of the horse and the bow, living their lives on the move. And their bow, it was the pinnacle of ancient engineering. Unlike the simple wooden longbows you might picture, the Scythian bow was a composite bow This means it was made from multiple layers of different materials, each chosen for its specific properties. The core was typically wood, often maple or ash. On the belly of the bow, the side facing the archer, they would glue on a layer of horn, usually from a water buffalo or an ibex. Horn is amazing under compression. When you draw the bow, the belly gets squeezed, and the horn stores that energy like a tightly coiled spring. On the back of the bow, the side facing away from the archer, they would attach sinew. That's the tough, fibrous tissue from the tendons of animals like deer or cattle. Sinew is incredible under tension. As the bow is drawn, the back stretches, and the sinew fibers store an immense amount of potential energy. These layers were all held together with a powerful glue made from fish bladders or animal hides, a process that could take over a year to cure properly. The result was a relatively small, recurved bow. The recurve is key. The tips of the bow actually curve away from the archer. When you string it, the bow is already under tension, meaning even more power can be stored when it's drawn. This design was compact enough to be used easily from horseback, making the Scythians the original masters of mounted archery. A Scythian warrior could ride at full gallop, twist in their saddle, and unleash a volley of arrows with terrifying accuracy and force. How much force? Modern reconstructions and archaeological finds show these bows had draw weights easily exceeding 100 pounds. To put that in perspective, a typical modern hunting bow is around 50 to 70 pounds. The Scythian bow could launch an arrow over 500 meters, and at closer ranges, say within 100 meters, their specialized arrowheads could pierce the bronze and leather armor of the time. Archaeologists have found a variety of Scythian arrowheads. The most common were trilobate, or three-bladed, bronze points. These were designed to create wide, devastating wound channels that were incredibly difficult to treat. Some even had barbs, making them nearly impossible to remove without causing even more damage. There's even evidence they tipped their arrows with poison, using a concoction of snake venom and other toxins to ensure that even a minor wound could be fatal. Think about that for a second. An army of riders, appearing as if from nowhere, showering you with armor-piercing, poison-tipped arrows before you can even react. It's no wonder the ancient Greeks and Persians were absolutely terrified of them. Crafting one of these bows was an art form passed down through generations. It required an intimate knowledge of materials, the seasons for harvesting them, and incredible patience. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of their identity, a masterpiece of natural engineering that allowed a nomadic people to dominate a vast portion of the ancient world. So how did they develop something so advanced over 2,500 years ago? It was born from necessity. On the open steppe, speed, mobility, and ranged power were the keys to survival. The composite bow was their solution, and they perfected it like no one else. But the story of the Scythians gets even more incredible. We've all heard the legends of the Amazons, the fierce warrior women from Greek mythology. For centuries, historians thought they were just that, myths. But what if I told you the Amazons were real? Recent archaeological discoveries have completely changed our understanding. For decades, when archaeologists excavated Scythian burial mounds, known as kurgans, they would find skeletons buried with a full set of weapons: bows, arrows, swords, and spears. For a long time, they just assumed these were male warriors. The default assumption was weapons equals male. But then came DNA analyses. Scientists began testing the skeletal remains from these warrior graves, and the results were stunning. They found that as many as 1/3 of the Scythian warrior graves actually contained the bodies of women, and these weren't just women buried with a ceremonial dagger. We're talking about women in their late teens to their 30s, buried with the same deadly weapons as the men. Their skeletons tell a story of a hard, violent life. Many show battle injuries, skulls crushed by clubs, arrowheads embedded in bone, and spines curved from a lifetime of riding horses. These were not just women who knew how to fight. These were frontline combatants. They were the real Amazons. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus wrote extensively about the Scythians. He told a story about a group of Amazons who encountered the Scythians, eventually intermarrying with them but refusing to give up their warrior traditions. They insisted on hunting, riding, and fighting alongside the men. For a long time, this was dismissed as a fanciful tale. But the archaeology now suggests Herodotus was reporting a reality he may have only partially understood. In protecting the herds, it made perfect sense for women to be trained as warriors alongside men. There was no room for rigid gender roles when a rival tribe could attack at any moment. Imagine the sight. A Scythian war party thundering across the plains. Not just men, but women too. Equally skilled, equally deadly. They would have been raised on horseback, learning to ride almost as soon as they could walk. The Greek historian Herodotus described them, and archaeological finds have proven him right. They wore tailored trousers and tunics, perfect for a life on horseback, but it's the details that are truly breathtaking. Their clothing, their weapons, their horse, harnesses, everything was lavishly decorated with gold. We're talking about intricate plaques, buckles, and ornaments, all crafted with incredible skill. And the designs weren't just random patterns. They were almost exclusively animals, locked in fierce combat, or depicted in a unique, flowing style. This is what archaeologists call the animal style. You'll see stags with elaborate antlers, coiled panthers, griffes, and birds of prey. These weren't just pretty pictures. They were symbols of power, speed, and ferocity, qualities the Scythians valued above all else. This art is so dynamic, so full of life, it feels like it could leap right off the object it's on. Now, about those tattoos. For a long time, they were just stories. Then, in the 1940s, archaeologists in the Altai Mountains of Siberia made a discovery that changed everything. They found the frozen, preserved bodies of Scythian nobles in a kurgan, at a site called Persia. The permafrost had acted like a natural deep freeze, preserving skin, hair, and even clothing. And there they were. Tattoos, not just a few, but elaborate, full-body works of art. A chieftain's body was covered in depictions of deer, rams, fish, and mythical creatures. The lines are so fluid, and a Persian noblewoman, often called the Siberian Ice Maiden, had even more intricate tattoos, including a magnificent stag on her shoulder. Looking at them today, they don't look ancient. They look like something you'd see in a high-end, modern tattoo parlor. The style is timeless. It really makes you wonder, what did these tattoos mean to them? Were they status symbols? Spiritual protection? A way to tell their personal story on their skin? It was a core part of their identity. This brings us to their beliefs. The Scythian world wasn't just about gold and glory. It was a world steeped in mysticism, governed by the forces of nature and the spirit realm. Theirs was a world of shamans, sky gods, and sacred animals. The Greeks tried to map Scythian gods onto their own. They identified a chief deity, Tabiti, with their own Hestia, the goddess of the Hearth-crucial, element for a people living on the cold steppes. They also worshipped Papaius, the Sky Father, and Api the Earth Mother, whose union created the world. But the most Scythian of all their beliefs was their reverence for animals. The creatures that adorned their gold and their skin weren't just decoration, they were sacred. The stag, with its branching antlers reaching for the sky, was likely a solar symbol, representing life and renewal. The eagle or griffin, rulers of the sky, embodied power and divine connection. These animals were mediators between the different realms, the sky, the earth, and the underworld. The shamans, who were often women, were believed to be able to travel between these worlds, communicating with spirits and guiding the souls of the dead. Their loyal servants and a huge number of horses were sacrificed and buried with them. To us, this sounds brutal, but to the Scythians, it was essential. The leader needed their retinue and their trusted mounts to continue their journey and maintain their status in the spirit world. The horses, especially, were seen as spiritual guides, creatures capable of traversing both the physical and metaphysical planes. The kurgan wasn't just a grave, a gateway to the next world, a place where the lines between life and death blurred. The incredible preservation at sites like Persia gives us a frozen snapshot of these beliefs. They even buried elaborate cannabis burners in the tombs, confirming Herodotus's account of Scythians purifying themselves in tents filled with hemp smoke. This wasn't just for recreation. It was almost certainly a ritual practice, a way for shamans to enter a trance state and connect with the spirit world. Their belief system was deeply tied to the land they roamed, the animals they lived with, and a vision of the cosmos that was both beautiful and terrifying. So, the next time you see a piece of ancient gold art, or a tattoo with swirling, powerful animal lines. Think of the Scythians. They were more than just nomadic warriors. They were artists, mystics, and tastemakers of the ancient world. A people who wrote their identity not in books, but in gold and on their very skin, leaving behind a legacy that continues to fascinate and inspire us thousands of years later. Their world may have vanished, but their style and spirit are truly eternal. Now, let's talk about the Greeks. They had a complicated relationship with the Scythians. On one end, Stem barbarians, a term they used for anyone who didn't speak Greek. But on the other hand, they were completely fascinated by them. Greek historians like Herodotus wrote extensively about Scythian culture, their nomadic lifestyle, their fierce warrior women who may have inspired the legends of the Amazons, and their unique customs. There was a mix of fear, respect, and awe. The Greeks couldn't help but admire their martial prowess. While the Greeks saw themselves as the pinnacle of civilization, they recognized the Scythians as masters of a different kind of warfare. Scythian archers were so renowned that Athens actually hired them as a type of city police force. Imagine that, the most sophisticated city in Greece, the birthplace of democracy, relied on barbarian mercenaries to keep the peace. And here's the funny part. While calling them barbarians, the Greeks were busy copying their technology. Greek art from the period is full of depictions of their own heroes, like Heracles and Odysseus. They even adopted the Scythian gorios, a combination quiver and baucus that was incredibly practical. So, for all their talk of barbarians, the Greeks knew a good piece of military kit when they saw one. The Scythians weren't just brutal warriors. They had a rich and complex culture. Archaeologists have unearthed magnificent golden artifacts from their burial mounds, or kurgans. These objects show incredible craftsmanship and a unique artistic style, often featuring intricate animal motifs. We see golden stags, panthers, and griffins, a testament to their connection with the natural world and their sophisticated beliefs. These weren't the crude savages some Greek writers made them out to be. They were a people with a deep spiritual life and a powerful artistic tradition. They were masters of the steppe, a people shaped by the vast, open landscape they called home. Their entire society was built around the horse. They were born in the saddle, and they fought, hunted, and lived their lives on horseback. This mobility was their greatest asset. It made them impossible to conquer and allowed them to project their power over a huge territory for centuries. The Scythians were a force of nature, a culture that valued freedom above all else, earned the grudging respect of the Greeks, and left behind a legacy of incredible art and a fearsome reputation that echoes through history. They remind us that civilization isn't just about cities and stone buildings. It's also about resilience, adaptability, and the untamable spirit of a people who refuse to be broken. For the ancient Scythians, this wasn't a fantasy. It was their everyday reality. These legendary nomads roamed the vast Eurasian steppes, and their lifestyle, though minimal, was absolutely genius. Let's ride with the Scythians. Their world was one of constant motion, centered around their massive herds of horses, cattle, and sheep. So, what did they eat? Their diet was rich in meat and dairy, a direct product of their pastoral lifestyle. They were expert horsemen and hunters, but their primary food source came from their herds. In fact, a Scythian burial mound in Ukraine revealed a massive bronze cauldron, big enough to cook for the entire community. They also consumed a lot of dairy. Milk, cheese, and a fermented mare's milk were central to their diet. This high-protein, high-fat diet was perfect for providing the energy needed for a physically demanding life on the open steppe. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving on a diet perfectly suited to their environment. Now, let's talk fashion. Scythian clothing was far from the primitive animal skins you might picture. It was practical, stylish, and incredibly well-made. The Greeks, who wore tunics and robes, were fascinated by this barbarian attire. They were masters of embroidery, applique, and goldwork. Excavated tombs have revealed garments covered in intricate designs and thousands of tiny gold plaques, depicting animals, mythical creatures, and geometric patterns. This wasn't just clothing. It was a statement of identity and wealth. Their horses were not just for transport. They were partners in hunting, warfare, and daily life. They developed advanced equestrian gear, including early forms of saddles and intricate bridles, which gave them superior control and comfort while riding. This mastery of horsemanship gave them a huge advantage, allowing them to control vast territories and react swiftly to threats or opportunities. After a funeral, for instance, they would set up a small felt tent, throw hemp seeds onto red-hot stones, and inhale the vapor. They understood which plants could reduce fever, which could act as a painkiller, and which could help heal wounds. They were experts in the natural pharmacy of the steppe, a knowledge base essential for survival far from any urban center. This implies a sophisticated understanding of anatomy and sterile procedure, at least enough to prevent fatal infections. The cannabis rituals might have served to alleviate psychological distress or pain, while their surgical and herbal knowledge addressed physical ailments. From their mobile homes and protein-rich diets, to their trailblazing fashion and surprisingly advanced medicine, the Scythians were a people of incredible depth and ingenuity. They proved that a nomadic lifestyle isn't a primitive one, but a different, and in many ways, a highly sophisticated way of life. Forget what you think you know about ancient history. Archaeologists who have excavated their tombs, known as kurgans, say it's like stepping into another world, a world of warrior kings and breathtaking artistry. Let's start with these royal kurgans. Imagine a giant, man-made hill rising from the flat plains. But this isn't just a mound of dirt. Inside, it's a time capsule. When a king or a powerful chieftain died, they weren't buried alone. They were accompanied by their most prized possessions: intricate gold jewelry, weapons, and entire sets of armor. We're talking about artifacts so detailed and beautiful they rival anything made by the ancient Greeks or Persians. Think solid gold combs, depicting battle scenes, elaborate necklaces and plaques sewn onto their clothing, all gleaming in the dark. But it wasn't just gold. The most astonishing part is that they were often buried with their horses, sometimes dozens of them, complete with elaborate harnesses and saddles, sacrificed to serve their masters in the next life. This tells us just how central the horse was to their identity. The Scythians were arguably the greatest cavalry force of the ancient world. They practically lived on horseback, mastering the art of the mounted archer long before anyone else. This mobility and military prowess allowed them to build an empire that stretched from the Black Sea all the way to the borders of China. These kurgans are more than just treasure chests. They're windows into the Scythian soul. They reveal a complex society with deep spiritual beliefs and a profound appreciation for beauty and craftsmanship. Each object tells a story of their myths, their daily lives, and their interactions with other great civilizations like Greece and Persia. The Greeks were both terrified of and fascinated by the Scythians, writing about them as fierce, untamable barbarians. But the treasures from the kurgans show a different side of culture of incredible sophistication and artistic genius. It feels like a form of time travel, a direct connection to these ancient people. The detail is so precise, we can study their artistic style in a way that's impossible with other cultures. The ice also preserved their clothing. We've found felt stockings, fur coats, and even towering, elaborate headdresses. The colors are still vibrant. The fabrics are so well preserved, we can analyze the weave. These finds give us an unprecedented glimpse into their daily lives, showing us what they wore, what they valued, and how they saw the world. We've even found remnants of the psychoactive plants they used in their rituals, confirming the accounts of ancient historians like Herodotus. The frozen tombs of Siberia have brought the Scythians to life in a way no one thought possible. So, we have this empire of master horsemen, brilliant artists, and tattooed warriors who dominated the steppes for centuries. They fought the Persians to a standstill and traded with the Greeks. They created a unique and powerful culture that left its mark across a continent. So, where did they go? This is one of the greatest mysteries of ancient history. Around the 3rd century BC, the Scythian world began to contract. Their power waned, and eventually, they seemed to just vanish from the historical record. Some historians believe they were pushed out by other nomadic groups, like the Sarmatians, who were expanding from the east. There might have been climate change that disrupted their pastoral lifestyle, forcing them to move or assimilate. They dominated for so long, and then they just disappeared as a distinct political entity. But here's the fascinating twist. The Scythians didn't truly vanish. While their empire collapsed, their people and their culture blended into the myriad of groups that came after them. The bloodlines Genetic studies today show that Scythian DNA is still present in many populations across Eurasia, from Eastern Europe all the way to Central Asia. Their legacy lived on in other ways too. Their innovations in cavalry warfare, their animal-style art, and their nomadic way of life influenced countless other steppe peoples for 1,000 years. The Huns, the Mongols, they all built upon the foundations laid by the Scythian. So, while you won't find the kingdom of Scythia on a modern map, their spirit still echoes across the plains. Their story is a powerful reminder that history is not just about empires rising and falling, but also about the enduring legacy of people and their culture. From golden tombs to frozen warriors, the Scythians challenge our ideas of what it means to be civilized. They were a people of profound contrasts, fiercely independent yet artistically brilliant, nomadic yet builders of a vast and influential world. Their story is a testament to the incredible diversity of human history. Thank you so much for joining me on this ride through history. What part of the Scythian story fascinates you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more adventures into the past. See you next time.